I'm your host, Antonio. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. And what you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told of yourself. Welcome to the show in Cleveland, where we got a little rainy morning, so hey, we're going to deal with it. Hopefully, those clouds, stop pouring some of that rain a little later on. I think that's what it's set up as far as the forecast is concerned. So we got a great program in the city in Cleveland Heights going on today. Dropo is doing their cultural drum and dance program at Kane Park. The actual performance starts at 8 o'clock this evening at Kane Park. So hopefully it dries up for them. For those who may be up under the shelter, it may be okay as well. But that's a great performance. They're having classes and dance classes and drum classes, I believe, all day into the weekend. So go out there and check that out if you want to get your kids or some family members into some African drumming and dancing. This is the weekend to get them started because they can see some great performers perform the arts, and it's going to be a great, powerful piece. In the remote studio, we got our good brother Vince. What's going on, Vince?
Well, you kind of alluded to it. There is a lot going on in Cleveland today. As you mentioned, we have the festival that's taking place at Kane Park with Japo. We also have another Juneteenth festival taking place on Mall C. On
Hmm.
top of all of that, we've got Parade the Circle taking place in University Circle.
Oh my goodness.
So all of those things on one day, and of course, there are probably other things that we're not even mentioning right now. Looking at the weather forecast, it's supposed to clear up somewhere around 11. No, I'm sorry, at around one this
Well, two.
afternoon.
Yeah, right.
So
Hmm.
it's at 100% chance of rain in the 11 o'clock hour. So hopefully things will clear up and everybody will be able to move forward with the activities that they have scheduled for
Hey,
today.
Hey Vince, I just want to backtrack again. We always, want to remind you because all this stuff is going on this week. But at the end of the month, we're doing that Juneteenth ball. So, I just want to put that out there at the Mediterranean on the last Sunday of June, 6 to 11 p.m. Come on out. Dr. Terry King Baby will be spinning. We're gonna have a couple drummers there, some drum troupe, and we're gonna have the African cuisine there. Come on out with your best does. Dust that dashiki off and come on out and have a good time. Let's culminate that particular month with a nice ball and festival, at the Mediterranean. Tickets are
All right.
$25, 45 a couple. Give me a call, 216-323-6155.
All right.
Mhm.
And let me squeeze this commercial in right quickly.
Mhm.
First of all, I'd like to let you know about the Larchmere Cultural Arts Festival. We're going to do 3 days of activities over on Larchmere, partnering with Unbar, Adune Spice Company, Kings and Queens Cultural Village, and Literary Cleveland. So we have a whole bunch of activities planned. We're going to have an art reception and show with some artists that will be speaking on the opening night at Unbar at 6 o'clock. That is going to be followed by a performance by Dr. Mary Weems, spoken word. And I'll also be doing some poetry and music for that event. On the next day, we're going to open with an African drum class at Kings and Queens Cultural Village. Sister Queen is going to facilitate that. We're going to have a writer's workshop with Nicole D. Miller. So if you have never been published, if you're a writer, you aspire to get a book out there, this will be the perfect event for you. We're also going to have a shorts film festival. So we will be featuring films by Dr. Weems, by Michael Oatman, Terrence Spivey, Wayne Smith, myself, and a few others. So we're going to have a popcorn type situation. Crosby's Corn has agreed to sponsor this event. So they will be on hand with the delicious snacks for you while you check out these shorts films. And then we're going to have a poetry slam that will be curated by Literary Cleveland. So we're going to have a lot of young energy at Larchmere Arts on that evening. On the third day, we'll have a gallery stroll. We're going to have an ekphrastasy event where people will be able to come in, observe a piece of art, write some poetry, and share their poetry with the audience. And then the capstone for all of this will be a performance by Hugh People Vocal Ensemble on the stage at Larchmere Arts. Before that happens, though, there will be a digital photography exhibition at Unbar, and it's going to feature Jeff Lawson, who you may or may not know was a photographer for Ebony and Jet magazines back in the day, and he also worked on the Donahue Show. So a lot of good things coming. And before that happens, we're going to have live music on the 25th of June with Gloria Cummings Jones and her fantastic quintet, Ed Ridley, Elijah Gilmore, and Brad McGee. So a lot good stuff coming up at Larchmere Arts. All right, going to open things up and welcome our guests to the show. They have extremely impressive resumes. They are promoting and connected to something called All Our Babies, Birthing in the Afro Future. It is one of the 7 transformative art fund projects that were selected by a committee. Full transparency, I served on that committee. We chose 7 projects. We funded up to $500,000 per project. And I'm telling you, they have been doing some amazing work thus far, and they've got plenty of activities to come. First, I'm going to introduce to you Alan Williams. He's a seasoned marketing strategist and community engagement lead with over a decade of experience designing culturally resonant campaigns that uplift Black stories, health equity, and creative innovation. His work lives at the intersection of brand strategy, public health, and grassroots organizing, using storytelling, digital media, and place-based activation to drive both awareness and deep impact. As head of community engagement and marketing for All Our Babies, Birthing in the Afro Future, Alan leads the vision and execution of the project's public-facing presence, from media partnerships to audience development, outreach strategy, and coalition building. He specializes in creating campaigns that reflect community voice while moving people to action. His expertise spans nonprofit, communications, creative direction, and experimental marketing, with a passion for connecting art, wellness, and justice. Through this initiative, he continues to cultivate spaces of healing, joy, and visibility for Black mothers, birth workers, and families across Cleveland. So, with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Alan Williams.
Hi. Thank you,
All right.
Vince. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you for having me.
All right. We have another special guest, and she is Simmie M. Davis. She's a well known behavioral health consultant in Northeast Ohio who has worked with nonprofits and small businesses for over 30 years. With a solid background in the addictions and mental health fields, she has operated in the executive and administrative capacities at the agency level and on her own as a business owner. She has a thriving practice in management and nonprofit consulting, focusing on entrepreneurs and programs supporting women and children, emphasizing total health and quality of life. In addition to her professional experience in Ohio, Ms. Davis has worked to set policies at the federal level and is the author of a number of treatment intervention protocols, TIP protocols, for managed care and prevention services nationwide. Her prolific work as the director of prevention and treatment services in the Cuyahoga County Alcohol and Drug Addiction Services Board led to a cherished award as the first recipient of the Calvin Thomas Community Leadership Award, an award developed and voted on by her peers in the recovery and mental health field. So again, very impressive resumes. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Ms. Simmie Marie Davis. And Simmie is also a personal friend of mine. Simmie and I used to perform in a band called Timbara back in the day. We had so much fun on stages around the city. She has a great voice. She has a great talent. In addition to all of those things, she is a consummate artist and she is a collector of art as well. So there are a lot of threads that are weaving together that bring us to this project. I'm going to start with you, Alan, and ask you to tell us about All Our Babies. What is it all about?
Yeah, so super exciting. So All Our Babies is a powerful initiative and it's a cultural community initiative where we're reimagining the Black maternal health, right? And so through an Afro-futuristic lens. And what that means is we all understand that there's trauma and that there is the Black mortality and infant mortality rates, and we want to be able to look at that in a positive light and how can we affect that, right? So we're rooted in Cleveland and we blend art, storytelling, healing, and health education and policy advocacy to confront the crisis of the Black infant mortality and really a community issue. And so we have 5 activations that we're running, and we have a culminating event. And so what these include are wellness spaces, art activations, doula and birth working training, and just offering a place for families to heal and express themselves. These are activations that are supported by, like you said, the Transformative Arts Fund, the City of Cleveland, and City of Cleveland City Council. So we are super appreciative of that. And ultimately, these pieces of art will live in a space where people can see this and also get resources for health education and be able to get the work and the birth work and the training that they need. So we're extremely excited about the work that we're doing, and we know that this is just the origin and the beginning. So we're excited to get the word out and be able to let the community know what we're doing.
Okay. And Simmie, you are playing a special role in this. Can you talk about what you're doing with respect to all our babies birthing in the Afro future?
Sure. Thanks for the intro, Vince. And you're right, we go way back because my commitment to this community has been way back, at least 30 years here in the area, but also in Akron and all of Northeast Ohio. My role in this project is as a project manager, basically keeping all of the wheels turning, helping with managing the budget because we never had in this community this kind of financial backing for artists. And so it's important for us to be prudent and for us to be good stewards of our award, as well as making sure that we utilize the funds appropriately so that we get the outcomes that we're looking for. Outcomes is the key here.
Yeah, you talking about outcomes and understanding that it's such an important idea that we support women who are bringing children into this world. Cleveland has a reputation as being one of the worst places in the country for sisters who are bearing children. And I remember a few years back, someone initiated a means of redefining the issue. Instead of talking about infant mortality, we should be talking about infant vitality. So, both of you, if you would, could you just talk about the importance of that paradigm shift and talk about how this project is addressing some of those ideas that can help change that paradigm?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is such a key paradigm shift, and just in general, right? The way that we all have opportunities to look at challenges, and we can look at them in a negative light, or we can choose to find the positive way that we can affect and move forward. And so that essentially is what that shift is. And so how we're doing that is specifically through this uh, artistic lens of called Afrofuturism, which is not anything new. And I think that I would say in the last 5 years, it's really gaining steam again, and it's something that you people going all the way back into the 60s, 70s, and even earlier than that, where people were saying, "Hey, let's reimagine our Black experience. Does it have to always be the negative? Can we reimagine ourselves as royalty, as in a happy, a joyous light?" And so, what we're doing with all our babies is exactly that. We're encouraging and strengthening people to say, here are the tools, right? Here are the birthing tools. Here are artistic tools. Here are things that you maybe never even knew about that will allow you to have a better experience. The mother, the family, the family unit to have a better experience, a more positive experience. And then ultimately, to Semi's point, in terms of outcomes, lead to a better outcome, not only for the mother, the father, and the community, but for that child itself and that showing up in vitality. And so we want to be able to encourage, empower, and provide folks with not think something that would substitute anything they're doing medically or with a doctor, but this is additive. This is saying, here are some other techniques, here are some other ways that you can express yourself and know your history to be able to embolden yourself and create a more experience, the advantageous experience that will lead to vitality. So there's a thousand ways, there's many things that we're doing throughout the activations, but ultimately that's kind of our stance on it and how we want to empower the community.
Simmie, could you talk about some of those things that you're doing within the programs that you are facilitating in order to have an impact on those outcomes?
Absolutely. First, I want to touch for a moment on Afrofuturism, because we throw that term around and like we all know it, but it's really a cultural movement. And it's been a cultural movement since, I'd say, mid-60s, basically knowing ourselves, advocating for ourselves, and helping ourselves while we don't depend on the rest of the community, because we've seen time and time again, the community sometimes doesn't come through for Black and brown people. So now it's time for us to bring it all together. Music is one of those threads that brings it together. So there will be a group called Morning a Black Star that will be at the culminating event. And they have a very interesting take on the musical piece, weaving in the 60s, 70s, 80s, all the way to now, because there's always been that thread of self-determination. If you think about Sly and the Family Stone, since he just passed recently, you look at his whole body of work. He talks about Stand, that's his song. He talks about the family. He talks about thank you for letting me be myself again. And every message that he had wove that theme of Black people will exist in the future. We will thrive in the future. It reimagines the Black experience for us in the Afrofuturism concept, that we will have a future where we explore technology, we utilize space, we utilize everything that we've invented. There's so much misinformation out there about the Black community and what we do or do not do, what we can and cannot do. And yet when we have our 1 month, there's not even enough time to talk about all the inventions that came about from Black and brown inventors all the way, male and female, and in medicine, in science. So some of the things that we'll be doing will be exhibiting those. We have a geodesic dome courtesy of the Prolific Achievement Agency, where we are now, out where Ridall Farms is. And in that geodesic dome, it has been set up to be peaceful and to create a place where children, mothers, fathers can come in and get in touch with who they really are and the spirit that's within them. So there are sound baths, sound bathing. I remember telling a person that came to the event the other day, a gentleman that came in, and he said, a bath? I don't want to take a bath. I said, come on in here. You'll see it's different. Not truly a bath, but they are sound bowls that are being used to raise the vibration and the electrical impulses of the body. And so these are folks that come out to use that musically and to calm and to bring people in tune with themselves. There are community quilts that are being created. And there is a quilt guild that is contributing to that. But there's also an opportunity for the community to come and create squares that will be a part of the community quilt that will be exhibited in the culminating event. There will also be and have been an affirmation tree. So there's a tree that has all kinds of positive sayings from people of color all over. And the people that come are also contributing to the affirmation tree. Oh, let's see what else. Our nourishment station. There is an opportunity not just for the typical soul food that we've had at many Black events, but this is also a place where you can get fresh pressed juice that comes from the fruit. And there will be a little piece on that, little education about where food actually comes from. What is the big deal about having seeded fruits today? People don't understand what the fuss is all about. So there'll be some debunking of the convenience of seedless versus the full nutrition of seeded foods. Cultural body painting will be a part of this opportunity for people to come and experience traditional from some from Africa and some from other tribes, even indigenous, the painting of the body, the painting of the face, and allowing children, women, and men to all participate in this. So that's some of the things. There's also a place there that is a greenhouse where at the last activation, participants came and they painted pots. And inside those pots, once they painted them and put their art on there, they were able to plant seeds in those pots. So on this next activation on the 28th of June, they can come back and see what has come of their planting. That's so important in our community. We don't always realize the seeds that we plant with the words we say, but also actually planting seeds, seeds of thought, seeds of action, seeds of invention. And these are the things that we emphasize in the project as a whole. This, again, is all our babies, not some of our babies and not their babies or y'all's babies. It's our babies. They're all our babies. So we want to see a good representation from the community, from every walk of life, that you too have a stake in the future, because we, people of color, we will be in the future. So come join us and see what's on our minds.
Yes. And so you have an upcoming program. Can you talk about the when, the where, and you've already talked about the why, but tell us about the next installment.
You want to start, Alan?
Yeah, I'll start. And Simmie did a great job of, I mean, we have so much going on and giving all of the details. Two things that I'll just add. One, super practical for the listeners out there. We have childcare. And I think that is amazing, because what happens, we've all been to events, and I have two kids, right? And if you got to go to an event with your kids and there's nowhere for them to be entertained at, you can't really get into it, right? You can't get your mind right for a sound bath. You can't really enjoy, painting and be able to really give yourself into those type of activities. So want to put that out there, because that's probably one of the biggest questions we get is like, what about child's care? So we have in the past, and we partner with Goldenrod Montessori, which is where, my kids go. So, I wouldn't be there. I definitely would advocate for them. They are there to watch the kids and help, and not only just like watch them, like have them in the corner, but actually doing meaningful activities with them, having them learn, having them do yoga. There's things that they'll be doing as well. And then also want to give a shout out to the storytelling booth, which I have found, one of the most impactful activities and things that we do. And this is the opportunity for men, women, anybody in the community to go in and tell their story. And as a father, a lot of our responsibilities is kind of a support, right? When the mother is pregnant or birthing or whatever the situation is, you're kind of just there in support, right? And so sometimes even as a husband, I don't feel like I've ever fully heard or fully appreciated my wife's story and then other stories. So allowing people to tell their stories, and each story is so different and unique and has its challenges and its bright spots and all these different layers to it, has been truly impactful. And the feedback that we've gotten from people has been really almost overwhelming and heartfelt, of saying, there's been nothing like this in the city or in my experience. And I'm so thankful that you all are creating a space for this. And the stories that people are willing to share with us are just absolutely amazing. So I wanted to put that out there. And then to get to your question, Vince, so our next volume, as we call them, is volume 4, which is June 28th at where Simmie said, the Prolific Achievers Academy. That's 8229 Higbee Road over in the Kinsman neighborhood, right on the other side of Ridolph Farms. So if you're familiar with Ridolph Farms, it's just on the other side of it. So you'll get there and you'll see it. And yes, we'll be there from 1 to 5. And again, that's June 28th. And we'll be having many, if not all, of the things that we mentioned before. We're hoping for good weather. This has been a crazy spring/summer. It's been raining every day, but we know that no matter what, we will be out there positive and in full force. So when we are looking forward to the community coming, and like I said, will be music, will be education, and above all, there'll be fellowship and sisterhood and brotherhood.
I have to tell you, I've had the opportunity to attend 2 events. So some of the things that Simmie mentioned are things that I actually observed. So the quilting piece, I was there when they were handing out the templates for people to create their square. And then when I came to the activation a couple weeks ago, I actually saw the quilt. And I wish I had known, because I'd like to show this. The folks who are listening by radio, they can't see it, but it is absolutely amazing. And the Quilting Guild, one of the sisters that's involved in that, has a quilt that is going to be displayed at the Smithsonian. This is the level of art at which we're operating. She gave me a title that they are fabric artists. I had never heard that term before, but there are just so many different genres of art. And so this is one of the ways that art practices are being supported by this project. So my thing is, I wish more people knew about it, more people could come and experience it, just like that geodesic dome. You know, at a point in time, you got to take a break from the screen. You know, you need to come in and have some positive vibrations coming from those sound bowls. You know, take that opportunity to meditate, to go within yourself, and to be affected in ways that you're not affected by when it comes to 5G radiation and all the things that we have going on, our exposure to lead, our breathing in toxic air, all these kinds of things. You can come and take part in this and have that experience and actually leave feeling better than you felt when you walked in. I remember in the previous event, there was some line dancing going on, you know, and dancing is another way that we connect with the creative part of ourselves. You know, just think about it. You might be doing somebody else's photography and then you throw your own moves in there. You're being creative in that moment. So many things involved in this. You talked about the cold pressed juices. I don't have to tell folks out there, when you walk into a store and buy a cold pressed juice, you're going to pay a lot of money for it. So if you just come and you just get a couple of shots, you're getting something that is a premium type thing that has a positive impact on your body. So I can't say it enough. These are great events, and I implore folks to take advantage of them, and looking forward to the culminating event. Let's talk about the issues, because one of the things that you invoked, Simmie, was a conversation about food. And food is vital to the development of a child in the womb. So can we talk about the importance of giving mothers or expectant mothers critical information about things that they should be doing to enhance the quality of their childbirth and the quality of the life of the child?
Absolutely. One of the things that's new and different, this is a trailblazing event, and this group of people that are together, it's multidisciplinary. So we have folks that know about nutrition, we have folks that know about therapeutic massage and yoga and all of that. But when it comes to nutrition, it's important that we help people understand that food, what is your concept of food? Food should be nourishing, not entertaining, not just to fill you up and make you full and sick, but it should actually give you energy and energize you. So there are teachings available about how to be in harmony with your body and not in opposition. Also, the affordability of it. There will be opportunities for some of the people that come, not just the women, but the men too, to see how many food banks that are in the city that have free produce. Most of the libraries and some of the community centers have free produce at least once every 30 days. And all you have to do is be of that area and drive in. Sometimes you have to bring ID, but a lot of times you do not. So we will have some of those representatives there. There will be a table available. Also, we will have the Breast Milk Collaborative. They have a group that educates women on how to create a body that can nourish their child through breast milk, and that there are some things that they need to do in preparation. Now, the conversation that hasn't been had yet, but will be had, is from the department, hopefully from the Department of Health here in Cleveland. It is not always talked about, but what happens 9 months before conception has a lot to do with the health of the fetal development, the health of the fetus. And the main contributor is not mom. Mom does all the work in the womb, but before the birth happens, dad has to be healthy. We want him to have good sperm and with good motility. We want him to have all of the building blocks for a healthy fetus to come through. And so there's going to be some emphasis on bringing in dad, and that he's not just a sperm donor. He is actually a part of this whole dome, and we'll talk about that later. They're actually going to show that environment, but he'll be a part of that, of course, creating safety for children. Children can hear from the moment they're conceived. They can feel. They have a heartbeat within 4 or 5 weeks. And so everything has to be laid out appropriately. In other words, we're talking about not planned parenthood type things, but planned parenting, that parents can talk about. Let's go about this the right way. Let's make sure we're drinking our fresh pressed juices, we're eating correctly, that we're in harmony one with the other, that we're in peace about this. This is a pregnancy that's going to go to fruition, and that it's up to us, not the miracle doctors and all that. They don't have to be there. Actually, a baby comes when it's time for the baby to come. That's why we have doulas in our project. The doula it's Greek for helper, and doulas are to bring through or to help all the way through. So you have pre-birth doulas, you have post-birth doulas, you have ongoing doulas that can stay with mom and dad for the first year of life. This was never brought to fruition. I can remember working for the county many years ago and going at it with the doulas of North America because there was no Black doulas. And we have Black doulas. So you will meet them there, and they will talk about the role of nutrition and the role of nutrition for mom, also for the baby. There are things that we know that when a baby is in a mother, they feed each other. If there's a deficiency at the cellular level on mom's part, the baby actually feeds mom the appropriate cell. And so they get nutrition from the baby as well as the baby getting nutrition from mom. So it's an ongoing conversation. And many of the women know now that the baby that's inside them, if it happens to be a girl, she has all the eggs that she's going to have when she is born. And so you're actually birthing grandchildren as well as your children. It's all together. And so as we take care of the 2 generations before us and the 3 generations after us, it's so important that we understand there is a singular thread. And it's not just mom, it's not just baby, it's all of the community and how we decide to contribute.
I want to amplify what you said about breast milk, because this, in my estimation, is one of the most critical issues when it comes to birthing children. And so many children don't get the benefit of what they can obtain through the milk of their mother's breast. So I know sometimes there's a stigma. There's always this conversation about, we don't want to see that, or there's the conversations about how inconvenient it is. But when you look at the benefit to that child from having what the most natural thing that they could get from their mother, it's critical that we begin to have a greater embrace of the concept of breastfeeding. Brother Hamtonio, you've been observing. I'm sure that there are a lot of things that you have going through your mind about what you're hearing about. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to chime in and perhaps make a statement or ask questions of our esteemed panel.
Yes, that's good, and I'm liking pretty much what I'm hearing. we have to start looking at these things in a original foundational type of way. Of course, I'm always going to throw the Afrocentric part of this and the African part of this. And one suggestion I would like to make is, if you can have the staff of your mothers uh, get a book that is called Magical Child. It's by Joseph Pierce. Magical Child. Uh, it was an amazing book. Dr. Asa Hilliard turned me on to it, in one of his lectures. I've heard it, and I, got the book and was reading. Our European brothers and sisters was just amazed as of how childbirth was going on in I believe it was Uganda. How these children were just being born, 2 days doing things that just blew their mind away. How instinctively how the kids and the mothers, their relationships on what the kids was able to do. And then how up in Europe, they was amazed that these kids were doing great feats right at birth, and how their kids were taking them 3 or so months later. So in essence, this study kind of changed the way how doctors and stuff was looking at birthing babies, and they got this from some tribes in Uganda. So it'll be interesting to see how, for they can see the differences on how our ancestors dealt with birthing and nourishing, and some of the spiritual ramifications of this connection and this wonderful thing of childbirth, that I think more often than not that our European brothers and sisters negate to understand, and therefore we fall in the same rut of things because we don't know, because of this culture that we're in right now. And the second thing that I would have to say is, at this point in time and where we at as people and as a community, all things should be leading towards who we are. Everything that we do, almost like when Tom Joyner used to say, party with a purpose. Everything should have a purpose. And to me, that purpose should be going to what our ancestors have laid down the roadmap on everything that we need to know. If you've been around here forever, you don't been through all these situations. Our issues, family issues, things that we know about. So, and I say it over and over in time, we're not looking to see what our ancestors have laid down. So I'm happy to hear that this program is looking at that and looking towards the of what we have laid down, that track record that we have laid down, far as living community, birthing, and embracing that. Because even with the dance, when you talked about dance, you dance with a purpose. It's a purpose of that. It's not just getting around there, jumping around, and this, that, and other. And you got to do things with intentionality. You know what I mean? With intentions. I'm doing this for a reason. I'm evoking this. This is spiritual here. I'm giving homage to this. And so that's why at this stage in game, when this administration, where we're in this society, I'm not gonna go political, but in this society, things being taken away, is so ever so important for us to recapture and ingrain and embed this type of philosophy and energy into our kids and things to come, because we're going to need that, maybe need that one day. You know what I mean? So that's why I say all things should be, be purposeful, and all things should be leading to amplifying and exemplifying who and what we are these days.
Something that just occurred, and go ahead, Alan, and I'll jump in. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think you made a lot of fantastic points, and something that I heard that was overarching as the history of it all, and understanding our history to be able to impact our future, right? And so that's something that, first of all, thank you for the suggestion in terms of the book Magical Child. That's something that we all are artists and students, and so that's something that I saw Simmie take a note on. I'm taking a note on, so appreciate that. And part of what we're doing with this initiative is looking at the past and either reminding or educating folks on the unnamed mothers of gynecology. You know, they practiced on these women and came up with this whole, and that's laid the foundation and the bedrock of what we call gynecology and OBGYN practice by with no anesthesia, even though
Yeah.
anesthesia was available, right? Just figuring it out. And these European and Caucasian and white doctors were using us and our sisters to be able to understand the female body and come up with the some of the practices they still use today, which maybe are not the best practices and maybe are the best practices for us. So giving that history, giving the history of the granny midwives, going back to Africa, showing practices that we were doing that have either been forgotten, stripped away, taken away. So that is part of the empowerment, is letting people know that just because this is the way that you seen it done or the way that has been,
Come on.
you know, trickled
It
into
ain't
your
the only
brain
way.
is not the only way. And that's why I say, and I think Simmie made a good point. We were talking yesterday that we are giving people additive measures. We're not saying, hey, don't listen to your doctor at all, because it's quite the opposite. We have relationships with medical institutions. And so, like, we are saying these are other, not even other, this is at your core. This is your essence, and this is your history that you should know, and that will give you the background empowerment to say, hey, you know what? I know my body, and now I know these other practices. I have a Black doula that I know of. I have my history. I'm eating right. The father's eating right. It was something I saw that was so encouraging. Is I've seen young uh, Black fathers and soon to be mothers. There's specifically two couples that I'm thinking of. I've now had the pleasure of seeing this baby develop. They came to the first activation back in March, and then they came in the last one back in the end of May, and they are in them. I don't know how young they are, but they're definitely in their 20s. And just to see them absorb the information, come back again, get some more information. You know, I peek in there, they're in the dome doing yoga. So just see that, to say that really warmed my heart, to say, hey, they're getting knowledge that, quite honestly, I didn't even get. You know, we have two children. The first child, we did it completely the Western way. I didn't know about any of this. We didn't know any of this. We just did what they said to do. It wasn't until we had our second child, and after we had our own birth story, and we had our challenges and complications, and we said, okay, what else is out there? Like, let's tap into. We do this for everything else. We try, you know, shop Black owned. We get Afrocentric this. We go into Africa. Like, why are we not doing this for our own most important thing we're going to do in our life, which is birthing a child, and to Simmie's point, birthing the next generation. So it wasn't until that it really opened up my eyes personally, and it was just a blessing that I was able to be a part of this. So I think you brought up a fantastic point, which is allowing people to know their history. And I think we all probably experienced this in some different ways. It was like, you had that light bulb moment of like, oh, okay, everything that I read in the history book is not true. And there's more to life. And there's these things that aren't known. And I think that this is a vehicle, that's All Our Babies is a vehicle to provide people with exactly that aha moment of, oh, wow, there's more out here. And then the fact that you're seeing a community of people only gives you more
Support on that.
like
Yeah,
social
right.
proof. That's like, it's not just me. We're all getting the information. That's why I'm so glad we're also in the neighborhoods we're in. You know, being in the Kinsman area, being in the Fairfax neighborhood before, like, we're giving the people who really need this information, we're giving them that information. And so I think that's just super vital to all this.
I just
And
want
to
to add on to that too, Alan. The goal of the program that Aaron Weaver had laid out was to have 250 birth stories in this storytelling booth. Now, it might sound like a lot, but everyone has a birth story. Some of them are cautionary tales, some of them are celebrations. And what that will do is weave together what we know of our ancient history with the history of our recent past in the last 200, 250 years, because we had midwives. My mother was born by a midwife. who died the next day, and my mother never had a birth certificate because of that. So we have all kinds of stories like that that we can begin to have conversations one with the other here on this land, as well as in the motherland, and bringing those things together. When Antonio was talking about dance, I always think about that, because you look at the haka of the Hawaiian folks and the folks, the Pacific Islander folks, they are doing a dance, but the purpose of it is a war. It is to strengthen the body and to be intimidating to the enemy. When we dance, stomping on the ground actually is a very natural way to build up the density of the bones. And so those who do all that stomping and dancing, they go to their DEXA scan and they find out that their bones are stronger than the average person, because they're moving that body and getting in contact with the ground. And so those are things that they don't talk about, those things, because it doesn't seem to, it depends on who's telling the story. And now this is our opportunity to tell the story and to share the story for ourselves going forward. Everybody takes care of themselves, and we should not feel bad about that or feel some kind of way. We are who we are waiting for. So it's time for us to tell the stories to one another, because I can learn from my mother, my grandmother, and all of us have somebody like that in our lives, or had someone. And we even are looking at the books. You mentioned this Magical Child book. I don't know that one, but I do know Layla Africa's book, African Health. And that was one of the ones in the 70s that I studied, as a freshman in college. We've been writing about these things, but when it comes to us, it's time for us to celebrate us and not think of us the way others think of us. We're not to be ashamed of ourselves. We should be proud, because while we're being ostracized, somebody's walking around with a notebook writing everything down that we say and do. And so now it's our time to develop those pieces and share it with our own folks. So we're excited.
So I just wanted to point out that when we look at this concept of Afrofuturism and we connect the future with the past, one of the cultural things that we did as a people is we breastfed our babies. This is part of who we are. And so again, I can't overstate the importance of that and the connection to that. And you also pointed out some things that have happened to us within the medical industry, testing without anesthesia and so forth and so on. So this gives us an opportunity to address the proper methods of bringing children in this world. We don't always have to default to a C-section. C-sections, as I understand it, are big business for hospitals, and it might make things a little bit easier for that woman. But on the other hand, there's a price to pay when you go through that procedure, particularly if you didn't necessarily need to go through that. So I just wanted to point that out in connection to our discussion about history. I also want to shift gears and talk about how artists have been elevated to the role of solution providers. We're not getting the respect that we deserve as artists when it comes to the idea of empowerment. But this project, to me, demonstrates the power of creative thought and the impact that it could have on the community. Who would have imagined before this proposal was written that these artists could come together and create all of the things that we're seeing in this process and have an impact on the community? And I just hope that people can take this seriously and understand how this community can benefit when we embrace the arts and culture as one of the solutions to addressing the issue of racism as a public health crisis. Was wondering if you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I have thoughts, and Simmie, please feel free to add in or tag in wherever. I think that is such a powerful and interesting statement that you said in terms of how artists have become solutions providers. It's something that I quite honestly myself didn't even really think about in that way until joining this initiative. And so something I've seen is artists are interpreters, right? They can interpret joy and trauma and emotions, and they can do it in a way that maybe even a person who's experiencing that could not. And so to not only have an artist develop something, and you spoke to earlier, Vince, leading the community through an exercise where they are artists, or bring everyone's an artist, but bringing that art out themselves. I believe that also is very powerful, right? You know, we have people doing painting, doing the community quilts. We have a bevy and a variety of artists, spoken word, auditory. You know, we had an artist call and got artists from all different spectrums who had their own stories to tell, and they had their own mediums to push that through. And so they're first and foremost, to me, interpreters of emotions, and which provides people that vehicle to kind of let that out. And then for specifically for this initiative, the artists are designing and creating these healing spaces, and that's something that I can believe cannot be understated enough, is that when you come to an event or volume, you will be transported, and you won't just be into a sterile room, right? And you're just like, okay, here's some information, here's a pamphlet, go about your day. The artists are truly creating spaces where you can let the world around you go, and you can fully, for however many hours that you're there, just fall into something else, right? We talked about the dome, we talked about the storytelling booth, we talked about the beautiful greenhouses and the hoop houses that are available at the Prolific Achievers Academy, that allow folks to just let you cannot fully get into this Afrofuturistic space, this healing space, unless your environment allows that as well. And so they have been absolutely key in creating those spaces so that folks in the community can have those experiences. And then also, the artists are part of the community, always have been a part of the community of Cleveland and just the greater world in itself. And so by having these artists, they are essentially community mobilizers themselves, because listen, you read my resume and it sounded great. I'm a marketer. People don't want to hear from a marketer. You know, we all know messages. You want to hear organically. You want to, if you go to a show, an art show, or you talk to an artist and they're describing something, you're much more inclined to really be engaged and like, okay, I'll let me follow up on it. Let me see that if you hear it from there. So they've been the artists that have been a part of this, and the artists that have come to the different activations and volumes. They have been great in terms of mobilizing the community. I ask people all the time, like, how did you find out about this? Like, oh, so and so told me, or I went to an art open house and somebody else was telling me about this event. And so they have been the artists have been key, and not only for our, my selfish reasons in terms of helping this initiative continue to elevate, and also for the community in terms of being able to translate and create those safe spaces for people to tell their stories.
Just a quick thing. I don't know about the time. I just want to make one observation, or more so just a suggestion something that you may be doing already. As far as the kids, I'm kind of rewinding real quick back about the kids and the birthing process. Is there a system set up for tracking the growth of these particular kids, or do we have spaces for where these children can go so we can monitor if moms are starting to understand this nutritional piece, this Afrocentric piece, this purpose piece that we're talking about, and connecting her with nature and things of that nature? Is there a tracking system to keep that going, to see how that develops in the future, so we can have child care facilities based on this foundation, based on this nutritional piece, and keep this thing going all the way up through school?
Let me tell you how this is a trailblazing activation and project. This has never happened before. It's not that we haven't known these things, it's that we've never really had the resources to do it. That's why this Transformative Arts Fund was so key. Part of what we're asked to do in the contract is to come up with which area you're going to focus on. So this group is focusing on healthy birth outcomes for Black, brown children. And there are others. Part of the activations that happened before the ones that we've had up like in January and going forward was connecting with all of the programs. There are many programs that are out here that are focused on one or two aspects of the birth process with Black mothers, but this brings it all together. So that's the creative aspect. That's the power of having artisans and artists all together doing things. We don't always think of, it's more than a mural, I should say. It's not, art is not just a mural, and art is not just painting. There is culinary arts, there is healing arts, there is birthing arts, there's all kinds of arts. And we're at a point where it's time for us to redefine what art means in any community. Art will save, art will convert, art will change you. Art is an emotive thing and a creative thing. And if we look at it for what it truly is, then we can enjoy it. The Eurocentric way is bring art to me and I will enjoy it. And it's an elitist kind of thing. Only certain people can enjoy art. And that is not the way that we do it in the African communities. If we do something, we go out by ourselves, we can go fast. But when we go together, we can go far. So that is the plan, is to go far by connecting with every opportunity that we can that are doing something that affects the ongoing health of these individuals. We plan to be working with Case Western before the project's over to connect, because this won't just be, it'll be over when the funding's over, but then there will be follow-up, and this will turn into an organization or an agency or a community or whatever. These are the building blocks. There are 45 artists involved with this, Antonio, 45. And all of them have something else that they do. And this should not be considered, it's not a hobby. You are an artist. And art is who you are. And especially for artists, it's what we do and who we are and how we stand. So that's more than a notion. And so this is the trailblazing time. And we're hoping to see this community come out on the 28th. It's from 1 to 5. And come out and check it out. It's really hard to explain in a 45-minute segment, but you come out there and do one thing and you will never be the same.
Oh, yeah.
Can't hear you, Vince.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Vince. You got to unmute.
Uh-oh. Well, he's probably wrapping up the show here.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back. I'm saying we're going to have to go into overtime because we've run out of time and there's so much more that we need to talk about. I definitely want to get an answer from Simmie about the empowerment of artists. So if you don't mind, we're going to keep you just a little bit longer. We're going to shift over to our YouTube and Facebook platforms. We'd like to thank our engineer, Tone Harley, for making this broadcast possible. He's on top of things and he makes sure that we are seen and heard. So thank him for that. And thank you for listening as always. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your absolute best day. Peace. Okay, that concludes the radio broadcast. We're now live to YouTube and Facebook. And just a reminder, if you are on YouTube right now and you're on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Share this broadcast with others so they can get this really important and relevant information, because we got to spread the word about this great event that's going to take place in just a matter of a few days. The project is called All Our Babies, Birthing in the Afro Future. And we've been talking about, among other things, the empowerment of artists. And Simmie, I definitely want to get your take on that. You alluded to it a little bit in your previous response, but if you could elaborate on why this project is so important for artists and what it demonstrates to the community of Cleveland, the greater Cleveland community, about what artists can contribute when it comes to progress.
Okay, we are shifting now in art. If you think back in the times of medieval and going forward from there, it was always the artist was elevated. So they would have patrons that would pay for their food and their housing and everything because that community knew that the artist was important. The artisan always has had a place of honor and a place of being different for the right reasons to forward the culture. So now, as we look at the African culture, we look at Afrofuturism, we're looking at a culture that hasn't had the supports that it should have, but does all of the things that they need to do. So the importance of having the artisans and artists in a community is to emphasize that we have agency and control over our own environment. It is up to us. So the art that is created sometimes evokes that. It's evocative. It evokes a feeling. If you've ever walked by a sculpture, or even if you've gone and caught the bus downtown and you saw the little people leaning up against the wall and realized they weren't real, they were art. If you look at any growing city, you will see a proliferation of large art installations. And we don't have as many here. We have a few, but we don't have as many permanent pieces. And it's time for us to allow that art to define who we are. If you look at the guardians on the bridge, that's art. Those big guardians holding those cars are telling the story of the automated movement and how the income was grown back then. We don't pay enough attention to these things. And as an art collector and an artist myself, I'm not a visual artist, but I do appreciate it. And so I can't make it myself. So I make sure that I invest in it. And we have told stories time and again. Those are the things that will be left, is the art that's created. Now, the art that is created in the person will never leave until that person is gone. And so when somebody goes in and has a sound bath in this geodesic dome, there's no electricity around them. Even the air that's in there is powered by solar power. So when they realize that you can bring everything you need with you, they will come out of that room feeling refreshed, but also their mind will be empowered to do some new things because they have control. When we look at Cleveland, it's time for artists to have a fund that is larger than what it is. And I think you alluded to that at the beginning of this program, Vince. It's time for us to strategically schedule some places and times and activities, not in the remote gallery over here or in the exclusive neighborhood over there, but the city of Cleveland. We will exist in the future. And part of the reason that we will exist is because we have made that decision with our own agency and our own artisanship. So that's my hope, is that we will be able to get that conversation started and let the money, as they say, where your money is, that's where your heart lies at that time. So we're hoping that that money will come forth, not just because of this project, but as a conversation that continues. And there have been some encouraging changes within the art community in just the last 5 years or so to keep it going. And I really look forward to that. I'm looking forward to meeting with Blaine Griffin, who is the councilman for the area in which we'll be doing our activation. And I'm looking forward to him being there and showing up and showing out and bringing some other people, because this can be, if he should decide this is an important part of his community, it can be there.
We've gotten an indication from some of our civic leaders of the understanding of the importance of art when it comes to economics, the economic impact. There was a city club last year when Rhonda Brown mentioned to the city club audience that Cuyahoga County saw $500 million in economic activity related to the arts. I've also read that for every dollar spent on art and culture, there's a 7-fold return. So it seems to me that if we got the bright idea that we need to support the arts more, we could see more of that return come to our community and benefit it. I think you alluded to it, and I would like Alan to comment on this about the fact that when we look at art, it's more than just murals. When we look at public art, and this project is a glaring example of that, you have so many different types of art involved in it. We've got the fabrics and so forth and so on. So could you talk about the diversity of art and the diversity's impact on the community and lifting artists up so that they can be empowered to bring these solutions?
Yes. You talked a little bit before this about my journey in terms of, I'm born and raised in Cleveland and then left and then now I've come back. And so that's given me perspective to see how art in its different forms and variations and mediums can not only affect a city, economically, and kind of what you spoke about in terms of like a return, and ultimately the people within it, and just the feeling and the vibe, and that certain thing you can't, in essence, there's certain thing you can't even quantify, right? It just makes when you go to a city and you see these big displays of art, or you can go to a place and there's spoken word, or there's just art in the city, it makes you feel different. It makes you feel something, and it makes you feel a little, I'll be honest, a little bit more proud of the city. And you're just like, yeah, okay, my city's really got it going on. There's, all these different things to do. So there's, from that perspective, I think there is an absolutely economic return. And then there's also an emotional, uh, kind of qualitative return where you're just that the people in the city feel better, and they can see themselves in a different light when it's and not just a building or just a plot of land. There's an actual intentionality, and I think that's also something else that shows intentionality, that hey, the people and our civic leaders are really thinking about how to beautify the city, how to get our voices out there. And so how that's shown up in this particular project is we have an artist call, right? And we were looking for artists, and we opened it up to all different mediums, not really knowing exactly what we would get. Will we just get painters, or we just get, people doing one particular medium? We had people doing everything from doing AI videos to painting on different canvas types, to spoken word, to somebody, a brother who takes paintings and then converts them into spoken word, and we have live painting. We have a variety of different ways of people of getting their stories out there. What that showed me and opened my eyes to is how individuals connect with different types of art. And like Simmie said, we all are artists, and art can come out through many different ways. And so the ability to showcase that allows us to connect with individuals in a multitude of different ways. Maybe something didn't quite connect this way, and then you go into a different part of the activation or the volume, and something does connect. And then that also empowers, again, and I'm going to keep using that word because that's something that's one of our core tenets, is we don't want this to be a thing that AOB is doing and like, oh, that's great for AOB. It's more about giving people in the community the tools to empower themselves so they can bring out the inner artist within themselves. And then they go and, I'm, thinking high level, they go to the city and say, hey, I want to do some art, or in my community, I want to do some art. I want to paint. I want to write my story. I want to do a blog article. So we are all about showcasing, and again, going back to, if people see it and they understand it and they're just educated about it, then that will spark the idea for somebody else. There's so many people that have come to me because I'm usually around the registration table or checking on the community partners. There's people who come to me and say, hey, I want to get involved, and I do this type of art. When initially they came, they didn't say anything about being an artist, but after going through the activation, they've come out either to the next activation or sometimes leaving, or even email us and say, hey, I'm also an artist, and this is how I think I can get involved, and this is how I see myself. This is what I do, and so it gives people an opportunity to see the artist in themselves. And then, from, like I said, a city standpoint, I think that there's an economic and an emotional return on investment that certainly I've seen in other cities, and I'm proud to say that after coming back, I've seen the huge leaps and bounds in the city, and yet I still think there's opportunity for growth.
You know, I'm mindful of the fact that we have some phenomenal artists involved in this project. The two lead artists are actually involved in dance. You've got Aaron Weaver and you've got Jamila Rahman. Both of them are connected to that dance. And I was thinking as you were making your comments about the connection between dance, movement, and children. There's a definite connection, and then we talked about the spiritual aspects of dance. So all these threads are coming together to weave this beautiful masterpiece that you are talking about. Simmie, do you want to talk about some of the artists that you have involved in this? I know Jerome White, one of my favorite artists. His work is magnificent. He has a sculpture that is involved in the Stories of Us project, which is something that came to Cleveland thanks to Dan Gilbert, because he owns the company Bedrock, and then there was also a foundation that provided some funds for that. But could you talk about the folks that you are working with to bring this project to life?
Well, most of them were already in place by the time I came into the project. Many of them I knew of, and some I knew personally. There is a collective that's a part of this called the Muamin Collective, and they are actually a band that has been around for a while, but they're not doing that here. What they're doing in the project is all kinds of community events and talking about helping and what can they do as Black men, what can they do to improve the community. This project in and of itself so far, and we're not done yet, of course, we're about 3/4 of the way through, has contributed $304,000 plus to the community. Much of it was paid directly to artists and artisans. And so that's something right there, that the money's going back out into the community. It's not just people pocketing dollars and walking away. They're coming back to the community. And there needs to be more exploration of those kinds of models of how we do that. Let's see, we have Azriel Johnson. She just recently signed in, and Angela Williams. I don't know them as well as I want to, so I'm gonna let Alan talk about them somewhat.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to our lead. Well, so Jamila Rahman and Aaron Weaver are the lead artists, and then of the artist coalition, Tandi Wiley is the lead artist of that, and so she's been phenomenal. She does the affirmation tree. She's a visual artist. She is also deeply rooted in the community and has a connection with Ridall Farms. She does an open art. I can't think of the way to word it, but it's like an open art session where artists can go there and just free flowing art. And so she's been great. Obviously, you talked about Jerome White. We have Jaleel, who's a phenomenal photographer. And then we have, again, the artist call and so these arts will be this art that the artist calls for. This art will be up in City Hall, and then we'll live in that culminating space that I talked about before. So all of the art will be living on, and not only will it be just here now, the community quilt that you did, that will be in the community space. And so we have these artists that are nationally known and recognized, and also deeply rooted in the community and care about this. And so part of our process for vetting any artist that wanted to be involved is asking very pointed questions about, how does this work relate to you personally? What is your take on Afrofuturism, and how do you see Afrofuturism connecting to what we're talking about now, which is a Black infant vitality? And so all of the folks who are doing this are not just doing this just to get their name out there and do art. It's because they are deeply connected to it, and they are either have their own birthing story, or we all have a birthing story, right? We talked about this before, and are want to be able to showcase how they can lead others. And so all the artists who are doing the activations, they're not just doing the art in silos, they're walking people through it. Jerome White is doing the live, he's doing his art live, and so people can see him actually build something and come up and draw and paint something. Tandi's leading folks through uh, uh, pottery painting, and you saw the community quilting. We have beads. There's womb tea, and so there's a whole other side too, because we have the birth workers who are doing the sound bath and the womb teas and the waist beads, and that's a form of art in itself. So don't want to leave my birth workers out there. We have phenomenal birth workers, Michelle and Amber and all these other folks as well who are doing the great work. So artists across the realm. And again, cannot stress enough that they are so gracious in not only giving their time, but giving their expertise and skills to folks to say, here's how you can do it. Here's take this home or leave this here and see how this potted plant grows. See how this community quilt grows. And so we literally could not do any of this without them, because they are the other side of this coin. It's the art, and that is the vehicle in which we are providing the resources and education.
Thank you. I really appreciate you shouting out to folks. They're the ones that are making this work under your guidance and suggestions and whatnot, and amplification of their stories. So this is a beautiful thing. So one more time, if you could let folks know about the next installation.
Yeah. And so it's going to be June 28th. That's a Saturday, from 1 to 5 at the Prolific Achievers Academy. That's 8229 Higby Avenue in the Kinsman neighborhood. And if you are familiar with Ridall Farm and Otter Park, it's right there. It's just on the other side. So you can find all the information on our website at allourbabiescleveland.com. And you can follow us at All Our Babies on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. So anywhere your social medias, and then just good old Google search as well. So look forward to having any and all. And I want to stress this enough. It's a free event, open to any and everybody. There will be childcare. There will be food. So like you said before, if you get nothing else out of it, you'll get a meal and you'll get some great resources and some art, and you get to have your kids run around and have a good time in a beautiful open space. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Simmie, any closing thoughts before we conclude?
Well, I don't want anybody to be mad that we didn't name them, because as I said before, we have 45 artists that are participating in this event. What I will say is that I was surprised when the DJ, which he is charged with putting together an Afro-futurist music selection, and he was going through Sun Ra and James Brown and just taking it through 60s, 70s, 80s, and I was very surprised when he was able to gather the children together, many little toddlers all the way up to maybe about 12 years old. And he did the ABCs, and it was functified, and they were able to relate to that. And then there were a couple other dances that the children knew that we didn't know. We know that where them fans at thing, but they had something else going on, and he knew what it was, and he was able to pull that music up. And it was just so joyful to look out and see 20 or 30 kids doing this together, some of whom knew each other, but many that did not. And so it's an opportunity for us to once again have a reunion in Cleveland. We need to have the time to come together in all walks of life. Even though it's right there in Kinsman, we went where we thought we would have good impact. And this is a good place to do it. So if you're sitting at home and you're not doing anything, or if you want to do something, come out and check it out. Even if you just look, go on the website and check it out, because we have something for every age and every ilk of person. Now, I will say We talk a lot about childbirth and having healthy births, but don't not come because you're not of childbearing age. My days of childbearing are over and I'm there. It's good for the older, it's good for men, it's good for every race of people to come and participate. We've had quite a diverse group come out, and they were just shocked that there was so much there and they got so much out of it. So come for yourself and come for your family, but most importantly, come for your Afro future. Come for the future.
To quote my friend Twain McGee, well said, well said. Brother Antonio, any closing thoughts?
Yes, a couple. And it's being that you guys, artists, and I'm lightweight artist myself. And this is the reason why I'm just gonna say something quick in closing. I just want to put this on your brain as well. By being an artist, you talked about so many advantages and usefulness of art. Art can be considered so many things, and that's why the system works so hard to control the type of art that is being put out here. There's a method to this. Through music, through any kind of, it's a motivator. Arts can be a motivator. It can tell the story. It's a keeper of the history and all those things. So that's why the system works so hard to try to control the type of art that's been. It's not by chance that you're on here time again asking for dollars for arts. Why it's not funded the way it is, because art can be something awakening to the people. It's controlling. And so what I said too about doing things with a purpose in this day and age and era that we are in right now, I would like to see, if I'm sure there's some artists that is already doing it, but what I would like to see, that when we display this art, when it has this uplifting, this purpose of us knowing who we are. We incorporating those sciences into the art. And what I mean by incorporating the sciences, and everything we do is bringing us closer to who we are and understanding this inner spirit that is in us. So just by shapes, just by artists creating shapes alone, it does things to the body, to the psychic. Colors does things to the body and to the psychic. You know what I mean? Movements does things to the psychic. And then, so when we do art going forward, I'm not saying it's not out there. I don't know. But when we're doing things going further and dealing with art, we putting those hidden cultural messages into it that ignite, that excites, that motivates our people, because our people need to be awakening. We can't be doing things just to be doing things at this particular juncture in our lives. You know what I mean? We need to be doing things for that whole hidden message, just like in Black and Slaves, when they braided hair, but it told a story, or where it's going and where we going, where the passage at, what we need to be doing. If we build a structure, we build it as a pyramid, because we know our life, because the shape of the pyramid alone, that energy gives life, sustaining life to you. So if we got a little a room that we having child's, that we meeting at, or the birthing place, it's under a pyramid shaped thing that help that, all of it has a purpose, all of it has a meaning, and every chance that we're getting, we're exciting that ancestral spirit that is in us as people at this particular time, because we may be doing something, but it's good to know why you're doing it. And in closing, like when years ago, when I was into martial arts, what my teacher would say, yes, you can teach me how to do the moves. A monkey can mimic the moves, but what is the purpose of the move? This is a hand block. This is a foot block. This is an attack from the back. Why are we doing this and why are we doing that? But I'm just mimicking what you're showing me, and I don't know what it is, then that's, that becomes an issue. You just mimicking moves and not ingraining in your spirit and evoking that what you ancestrally already have in you.
And this is one of the most intentional projects that you will see in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes. I will add to what you just said, Brother Antonio. This is really about us remembering who we are.
Yes, yes.
Remembering who we are.
Yes.
I want to congratulate you all on what you have done thus far, and say that we are definitely looking forward to what is to come. It is going to be magnificent. It's going to be worth everyone's investment in time and attendance, and being able to walk away from this with something that you can use to move forward in life. Thank you for joining us on 360 Info Network today.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having
Thank you
us.
for having us.
All right. And as always, to our listening and viewing audience, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your absolute best day. Peace.
Peace. Peace. All right.